Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. At this point, I wish that they just swap those two out. I wish that they swap out Ronnie for Tracy. For a good 45 minutes, she did nothing but get on my goddamn nerves. Constant whining, the yelling, and there's one point where she was like, listen, we're gonna sit there and deal with this as a family, so you don't need to be here. I'm like, I'm sorry, stupid. Did you not just hear the fact that this is her house? And the only person that should be getting the boot at this point is you? Listen, I don't understand how people could sit there and listen to her for a whole hour without skipping her goddamn scenes. But bless your hearts. At one point I was like, I was pretty amazed that, at first Chase and Snitch are trying to reason with her, and they're saying, listen, we're trying to solve a murder. Could you please let us sit there and search the house? And, it was like, listen, just pull back. Told him why. Being stuck in a very compromising position. Because he wanted to stay. And she was like, as what, a cop or a husband? He wanted to make sure things wasn't going to be moved and tampered with. And at first, I was like, wow, it's amazing. You came back within 24 hours and just had a new arrest warrant. But it made sense because all he really had to do was to change the typo. Anna was upset with Justine because Justine was like, she was gun ho for this. So, like, how did you let that slip with a goddamn number? I would never understand. But of course, they came back and they was ready to sit there and search the house. The scene between Willow and Britt wasn't even necessary. There used to be this segment on YouTube with Days of Our Lives called something cutting the floor, whatever, where they would sit there and show these cut scenes from the show that wasn't really germane to the story, that they would just leave as a scene. And I watched them, you can understand why. This is one of those scenes where it's like nothing came of it, right? Other than technically, Willow is Britt's niece, I guess. That's her aunt. But other than that, um, she couldn't really help her with the problems that she had. See, Drew wanted Willow to move in. And Willow's like, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if that's such a good idea. I feel like it's going to hurt my chances of getting my kids back. But as she spent there looking on her phone with a text, she realizes that they got a new judge, which wouldn't be a problem, but they pushed her sentencing, they pushed the judge as far as reviewing her case to mid-January. So she got to wait like 2.5 months before she has an opportunity to even see her kids, right? So at this point, she's not even thinking about Drew. Drew's like, hey, listen, we're gonna work it out. I'm gonna sit there and get Martin, and we're gonna figure this issue out. A bunch of more empty promises that he doesn't even know he can keep. And Drew has his own issues. See, Curtis is not there talking to Portia, and it's like, I want to sit there and run a theory. I want to sit there and see if he actually has the blackmail evidence. So, Portia's like, listen, I'm gonna come with you. They go in the room, and Portia sees Willow there. She chews her out, and she acts like a bitch, to be honest. And it was kind of annoying to watch. I mean, granted, I'm not a huge fan of Willow, but like Portia, you were doing too much. But the point was to sit there and get Drew riled up. And there's a point where Drew's like, "Hey, listen, you do realize I can still sit there and send you to jail." Portia at this point is like, "Do it." And she yells, "I'm like, do it. You're gonna do it, do it." Because I'm not living in fear at this point. And then Drew's like, "Hey, listen, I've been pretty tired from PT and everything. I'm gonna need some sleep." So they walk out, and Curtis is like, "See, he doesn't have it." Now, Oh, and by the way, again, Bush is pregnant, but she was able to hide the test results when Curtis walked into the room. But now Curtis comes back into the room a little bit later on, and basically it's like, listen, since it's over, and they're gonna probably be closing in on a real shooter, we don't need to sit there and stay married. So you can sit there and file for the divorce at this point. There's no reason for us to still be together. But of course, see, the thing about Portia is that Portia is a person that doesn't learn from her past. Portia's going through the exact same thing that she did with Curtis and Taggart. Just now, it's just going to be Curtis and Isaiah. That's the only difference. Um, and I feel like she's going to do the exact same thing. She's going to be with Isaiah, or she's either going to be with, she's probably going to be with Curtis, say the child is Curtis, and then at some point it's gonna come to light. Now, my whole thing is if Drew finds out who, well, if Drew finds out that she had an affair and that she's pregnant, and he's able to sit there and find out who the father's child is, she's gonna use it to sit there and blackmail Portia. I have a feeling she's gonna do that. Um, Gio and Emma are still going through this misunderstanding. And then as they're talking about it, Trina and Kai walk in. So, Kai is not there talking to Gio, and Trina's not there talking to Emma. And Trina and Emma are basically not there talking about this. You should just sit there and tell them how you feel. But this, you know, this kiss and this thing you got going on between you and Gio. While Gio and Kai are sitting there talking about Drew. But he does want up leaving because he feels like he was about to slip out about how he really feels about Drew. He does sit there and say to Gio, like, hey, listen, I may be his intern, but I don't agree with everything that he's been doing so far. And long story short, Emma and Gio want to working it out, and they figure out that they really like each other, and they kiss the end. I just personally did not care about their puppy love or whatever you want to sit there and call it, and I'm glad they did not sit there and stretch it out past 2 days. Um, Meanwhile, Kai wants to sit there and quit working for Drew because it's like, at some point my animosity is going to sit there and really start to show, and my cover is going to be blown. But Trina's like, at this point, we just going to have to wait it out into the real killer's court because right now your fingerprints are on the back, and you know what I'm saying, like we need somebody on the inside to know what's going on with Drew, at least until somebody gets caught. So he's like, all right, fine. He's got to sit there and just deal it out. Um, Michael backs Ronnie when Tracy's like, I mean, there's a point where Ronnie's like, hey, listen, y'all figure it out. Just let me know what's going on. I'll be at the hotel. I'm like, no, 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 no. You're not going to no goddamn hotel. This whole shit right now, this is yours. Why the hell are you going to a damn hotel for? And the Metro Court? Nah. You living on a waitress salary. You can't. Like, no, 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 no. And again, do not let Tracy sit there and bully out this goddamn house. Now, Jason thanks Ronnie for coming through, and Michael is like, listen, I'm not. He practically is like, I'm going to follow my grandmother's wishes. Um, he's like, he's not going to really sit there and fight it, and tells her like, yo, listen, stay in the house or whatever. Both of them is kind of backing her. And Tracy is just doing her usual annoying shit that she does. Whine, pout, and complain. Of course, until the cops come in and Jason winds up meeting Brennan. I guess he probably spoofed Carly's phone because Jason thought he was meeting Carly. Now, Josh is talking to Britt, and Britt is all like, "Oh, listen, you're gonna set me up in a hotel Carly's hotel, and because that's what you're gonna do since I saved your life and everything, and I'm hiding your secret. But Johnson's like, yo, listen, that's gonna send up red flags, like especially being at Carly's place, and I'm just sending you up. Nah, that's not gonna work. And she tells her like, yo, listen, that's gonna be a big mistake. And Britt's like, I'm sorry, is that a threat? Which, by the way, I think Britt is short for Brittany, but Britt works better than Brittany. She does not seem like a Brittany. She seems more of the mean girl anyway. Jack comes in and, he talks to her. And long story short, he's like, hey, listen, I got to sit there and I got to set you up for an interview. And Britt's like, hey, listen, I was just a guest at the Poppy's Hotel. Oh, okay, cool. All right, you know what? How about this? I'll stall and whatever, hold off on the interview as long as you don't make trouble for me or my agents. But then he's like, hey, listen, just to let you know, in case it's a good thing you weren't involved in any of that stuff, because if you was, you'd probably be breaking a whole bunch of international laws. You want to go into jail for life, and what do they call it, Steinberg or whatever. And trust me, you don't want to be there. So basically, Smith is saying, like, if you cause trouble and we find out that you were working in any capacity with those men, I'm throwing your ass in jail. And you might want to sit there and think about, if you're going to cause trouble for me, is it worth you going to prison? Like, ask your mom if you think that that's a good place to go. I'm like, Brett, you're kind of wilding out a little bit. Like, be happy that you sit there staying there. You want to sit there and take it an extra mile further and be blackmailing people. Oh, and Carly comes to Liz, and she just wants to sit there and ask, what did she tell the police? You know, how did how credible or how did the police act? Like, did they take it super seriously? And and Liz realizes, like, don't worry, I'll sit there and back you up because I'll sit there and tell them that Drew provoked you. Unless you want them to be looking at you, so this way they won't be looking at Michael. Um, and honestly, to tell you the truth, at that point, it really goes nowhere. She wound up leaving. Michael, he left the house a little bit. He goes to try to find Willow, and he goes to Liz's place and asks her to come in and, kind of stay until she gets home. And you saw in the previews, he does sit there and offer her, like, hey, you can sit there and see the kids. I wonder what the catch is. And, in all reality, after this whole thing is exposed, um, because Sasha left because she felt like somebody was there targeting um the family, and she didn't want the baby to sit there and get caught up in the crossfire. But with that threat being gone, you would sit there and think that Sasha would come back. But see, that's the thing though. Once you have a baby by Corinthos, you are never ever really safe. So even after everything comes out, and people find out what she did, or they find out it was her, Sasha still ain't coming back. Just in case anyone was there wondering who were Sasha fans, I personally don't really care, but about Sasha coming back, but yeah, she ain't coming back. But I feel like so much other stuff happened. I don't know if I said this, but at some point Marty does come to talk to Drew, and he talk about the evidence or whatever, and Marty is able to sit there and show Drew the context of what was in the safe that the police found. And he realizes that the black material isn't there. And he was like, okay, cool. And he also sits there and thinks that it was Marty and Curtis, one of those, I mean, not Marty and Curtis, Curtis or Portia that wound up shooting him. But he was like, no, I don't need you to sit there and call the police. For Willow's sake, the shooter needs to be Michael. And granted, that'll be able to fly since he doesn't, his alibi is weak at best, and even without the alibi, there's still time that's missing. There's time that's missing with Curtis as well. But I mean, The police don't know about Portia and Drew. So right now, Michael is more of a suspect than Curtis is. And that's the way he wants it to stay. Now I feel like I'm actually done. I can't think of anything else that wound up happening. I might have missed some stuff here or there, but that's the general gist of the episode. Now, of course, if I missed anything, come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I will be sitting there talking about all the shows. You know what they are. There's also a good chance I may not be able to do a review on Beyond the Gates. I'm going to try it, but I also want to sit there and try to make sure I'm able to do a live stream tonight, so it might just be this. I mean, if anything, we're going to watch it right after I do this, and anything that, if I don't do a review on it, I'll definitely be talking about it tonight, as well as all the other soaps and, stuff like that. So, see y'all tonight.